Hey, Kathy Carter, Nashville, Tennessee. So happy to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I'm
I,
excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
yeah, well, I know a little bit about your story, and I'm just dying to hear more. But what I know about it so far is really got me pumped up and excited. So we'll just hang tight for just a couple seconds here, and then we'll get down to it with Kathy Carter, Nashville, Tennessee.
This is Honey Badger Nation,
where real estate agents from around the globe come together
to grow, collaborate,
and expand their business.
Where we take our individual fires
and put them together and make one big fire.
This is the Honey Badger Nation.
Hey, Kathy, I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I have never been to Nashville, which is
don't admit that on live stream here.
Yeah,
no.
Well,
it's a great
especially
city.
if you saw my cowboy boot collection, you'd be really shocked. So
I'm very surprised. I mean, it's a great city. However, I will say the people that are walking around Nashville with cowboy boots, not all of them, but most of them, if they got cowboy boots and cowboy hats on, as a native, we're all like, yeah, those are tourists. So
yeah, well,
the natives don't wear all that usually.
I'll come and buy some and then leave, so I won't bother you guys. So you have been in the real estate business for a while, I hear. What's it, 24 years?
24 years, yeah.
Yeah.
I was about 11, I think.
Yep.
No.
Yep. And I've been in the business for a while too. And there was a point in time kind of recently where people, I hate to admit it actually, because people look at longevity in the business and sometimes equate it with being a dinosaur. Mm-hmm. And, that's only true if you don't have education as a value, that's one of my values. And it's the keeping up with everything that's currently happening in our industry and the changes that have happened. It really, I think, adds a lot to our ability to be among the most current. And I know that that's one of your values as well. And you've done a really great job at that. So just real quick, what was your story like? What was your journey like?
Yeah, so I've been in 24 years and, I just loved real estate. When I got into it, it wasn't really anything I got into because I loved looking at houses or anything. I just always thought it was a business that I would like. So I got in it and just absorbed everything I could. Right, like you said, like learning was and is a value of mine. And so I was a part of every training I could be a part of with the company I was with when I started, which was Coldwell Banker. I was there for my first 7 years, and every training that they had, I was there. I started getting into to the world of getting my real estate designations, right? I think I have every designation known to man, but it wasn't because I wanted those letters behind my name. It was because I wanted the information and the education that I was getting from those, right? And so, like I said, I have probably every designation known to man. And fast forward, I was at Coldwell Banker for 7 years. Then I moved to Keller Williams. I was a manager and broker at Keller Williams for about half of the time I was there. And I was there for 7 years. And then I went to an independent company here in Nashville that, for all practical purposes, you just paid a little bit of money from your transactions. It was about 100% company for, like I said, all practical purposes. And then in 2017, in May of 17, I heard about EXP, had never heard of the company. But when I saw their business model, I was intrigued by the business model. So I made the move 5.5 years ago.
So let's break that down a little bit. So you were with Keller Williams, and I was too for many, many years and loved the company. No shade there. Mm-hmm. But what caused you to move to the transaction 100% company?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. One thing I'll say is every time I change companies, I never was looking for another company. Mm-hmm. But as a business person, I'm just very open-minded always, right? Because I don't know what I don't know. Like I say that to people all the time. You don't know what you don't know, right? In just general business. And so I'm always open to listen to, different business opportunities, right? And so whether it be in real estate or not. And And so when the crash, if you will, back in 2000, those of us that have been around a long time, when the market shifted like it did back in 2009, 2010, it was not fun for any of us that were in real estate. And a lot of agents started leaving. A lot of top agents started, several got out of the business, but then, there's a lot of shifting going on, and several of the top agents out of our office moving over to this 100% company, just to be able to keep more of their money, if you will.
Right.
And so for 2 years, they were like, you should come. And, I was not looking. I had always been with the branded company like Coldwell Banker, then Keller Williams. And so in my mind, I thought, I don't want to be with a quote unquote no name company. And they were somewhat new, getting started off the ground, that this 100% company. And so it took me 2 years to finally decide to make the move. And the move, I'd made that move at the end of the day because I just wanted to be able to keep more of our money, because our business that we're in real estate is not a cheap business to be in. I think buyers or sellers, they see the commission dollars that are earned and they're like, oh my goodness, agents make so much money, or you make so much money. But they don't realize, first of all, we don't get to keep all that money. Our company takes a percentage of it, right? And then everything else that comes out of it. And so at the end of the day, it was to keep more of our own money.
Now, and weren't you considering opening a branded franchise at some point too?
Yep. My husband and I, he joined me in real estate in 2005. I got in 99. In 2000, it was probably 2007, we were looking to opening really a franchised model. We started looking at locations and spaces, and we were realizing how expensive, right? The overhead and everything that we were going to be on the hook for. And so we kind of just slow walked that. Like, it was always something that we thought we were going to do, but it was the responsibility and the financial responsibility,
liability.
Yeah, and the liability. It was a little more than we were ready to chew or take off, bite off at the moment. And then it was the next year that the market started shifting at a fast pace like it did. And, through that, we were thankful we hadn't jumped out into that, because it would have sunk our ship for sure. So, but it was always something in the back of my mind that I wanted to be able to do, and to have a company. And so,
and that's frequently, those of us in the industry kind of look at that as sort of a next step in our evolution.
That's right.
We build our real estate practice and then get bigger and maybe have a team, maybe not. And, what's next. And so there comes a point in time when people consider that as the next option. The old saying that, why do you call him the broker?
Yeah,
is true, right? Because the broker is broker.
That's right.
The broker one.
That is so true.
Expensive.
That's so true. One of the things that I share a lot of times with agents is, many, many years ago, I read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Then I read the Cash Flow Quadrant, right? And Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote those 2 books, he talks about, like, how do you have a real business? Like, what is a real business? He talks about you can make money in 4 different quadrants. And one of those quadrants is being a business owner. And prior to reading that book, I always thought, if somebody had asked me, if you're a business owner, I was raising my hand, right? Well, after reading that book, he describes a business owner as somebody who's leveraged, who has systems in place, and that has a business that's not dependent on them being there, that they can be gone 6 months, really, he says a year or more, and the business keep going without them, because you got the systems and the leverage in place. And so it really was an eye opener for me. At that point, I'd been in real estate probably, when I read that book, probably, 12, 14 years or so. And I thought, man, all these years, I thought I was a business owner, but none of that was true. I certainly could not leave my business and it keep going. And so one of the other quadrants he talks about is the self-employed person, which is somebody who just owns a job. And I was like, that's really what all real estate agents are. We're the self-employed people who own a job. And so it was always, how do you get from the left to the right side of that quadrant? How do you go from self-employed to being that business owner? And that's where the idea of, the only way that I knew at the time of doing that was to become, you could have a team, which we had a small team. So it's not about you being there on, showing every single buyer, every single house, right? You could kind of build a team, but then the next level of it is like opening your own company. And so that's why, for years it was like, it's, to really have a business, it can't be just about me and even my husband. It can't be about us having to be there all the time, 24/7.
So you're at the 100% company, assume you're paying a, pay as you go transaction fee to them, that sort of thing. And that, when you look at, numbers, depends on the volume you're doing, that can be a pretty good setup for a realtor. So why even look at, so then it's when you looked at EXP, right? So why even do that?
Well, when I first looked at it, I didn't know what it was. And it was a friend who had asked me. He was a new agent, and he had just gotten his license, and he actually was in Dallas, and he just, knew I'd been in real estate a long time. And he just said, "Will you look at this model?" He goes, "It's a newer model. They've been around, but they're not that big. But, I partnered with them. Would you look at it? And, tell me what your thoughts are. I know you've been around the industry for a long time." And when I looked at the model, I just was blown away, quite honestly. I was like, wow, this model for so many different things. But going back to what I was just talking about, being a business owner, it was the opportunity that could afford us to really have our own company under the umbrella of EXP without all that liability and the risk and, headache and everything else that go along with opening that independent company or that, franchise company for us that we were looking to open. And so it solved all of those problems. And he didn't even realize that, because like I said, he was a newer agent. He didn't even realize that many years earlier we had looked at opening our own company.
Right.
And like I said, it solved all those problems.
So you saw the model and you understood it because you're a student of the game. You had it in your mind after reading Kiyosaki's book, which I recommend to everyone.
Yes.
That, I'm not a business owner. I have bought myself a job.
Yes, exactly.
And if I don't keep doing my job, then everything goes downhill. So, but you were also an active realtor. So let me ask you, kind of a two-part question here. So when you made the decision, once you understood the model, and in 2017, the company was about 4,000 agents nationally?
3,200. Yeah.
3,200.
I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of the company. Yeah. They really hadn't even launched in Tennessee at that point, really.
So part number one of the question, how did your real estate, just the real estate portion of your business do with making the change? How did that affect you?
Good question. One thing I'll say is, it's interesting as I've looked back over the journey, just really in real estate. Like I said, it took me 2 years to go from Keller Williams to this 100% company, which at that time was really a no-name company. They're a big independent now in Middle Tennessee. But it took me 2 years because I felt like I needed that name behind me. And when me and my husband, when we made that leap to the 100% company, I don't feel like we really missed a beat at all, right? It was this no-name company, and I don't really feel like we missed a beat. And so it showed me, fast forward to when I saw EXP, I already knew the insecurities, if you will, moving to a company that nobody knew about. I'd already walked through that. And I realized that it did not affect our business at all.
Right.
Now there's a little bit of a transition time anytime you move, right? For a month or so as you're getting, you're learning their systems and all of that, right? For a month or so.
Right.
But as far as affecting our business, when I moved to the 100%, it didn't have any impact to speak of. And same when I moved to EXP. And so I knew, and I just feel like, for me, I'm a Christian, and I was like, God is just lining these steps up in order. So when this presented itself to me in 2017, because of the path I had walked in And the 2-year hurdle it took me to go from the name company of Keller to this no name. When I saw EXP, that was not a fear of mine at all, or even a concern. I said, hey, if this company is good, at that time, to be honest with you, I didn't even know if the company would really make it. It was only 3,200 agents. So I wasn't even sure that the company would make it. But the model was so good. I said, if it does make it and we don't take a leap of faith and partner with them, like I would kick myself, right? It was the fear of not participating or not making the move versus making a move and what might happen there. It was more the fear of what if this company becomes something huge and we've missed the boat or missed the opportunity. And so, my husband and I talked about it. I was like, let's just give it 1 full year. And if it's not as good as I think it's going to be, we still have our license. We can go back. Right. We can go back where we came from, or we go anywhere else for that matter. And so that really is what also made it easy in my mind to think it's worth the risk. It's like the what if.
So the way that it used to be, I'm told, in the world was that a career path would be work with whatever company for a certain number of years, and then you get your gold watch or whatever they gave you and a pension plan, and then you could retire. And so
not in real estate, in the corporate.
Exactly, not in real estate, exactly. But I'm going to even question the notion of retirement now, because that people, starting out in their career aren't really thinking along those terms. To me, the goal is to be at a point of choice in your life. So you could choose to continue doing whatever it is that you want to do, that you find interesting, or you could choose not to, like your example of, taking a year or two off and whatever. So when chatting with you a little bit before, I think I might know the answer to this question, but so you made the decision in 2017. So you've put 5-6 good years into this. Do you consider yourself to be at a point of choice in your life now?
Yeah, totally. 100%. And it's just been an amazing journey. And, one story I'll share, my husband in 2020, right in the middle of COVID, like all that stuff had just happened. There was still so much uncertainty around that. In July of 2020, we ended up finding unexpectedly, from the time we found out to the time he was in surgery, it was about a week or 10 days time that he had to have bypass. He ended up with a quadruple bypass. And
Wow.
Because of what, we had been able to do and build, as we were building our company, if you will, under the umbrella of EXP, so many times through his healing journey after the surgery, obviously there was a recuperating period. And so I was able to just step out and spend about 60 days with him and not worry a bit about what was going on with our real estate business. And in the real world of real estate, everything is about keeping your pipeline going, right? So when you step out for 60 days, that means now if I'm not out doing any kind of prospecting for 60 days, now that means I'm not going to have any closings for, the next 30 days or 60 days or maybe 90 days, even beyond that. So the freedom to step out for 60 days really, from an average, typical, I'd say not average, but from a typical agent standpoint, that means you're going to be without closings probably for 4 or 5 months, right? Because I was doing no prospecting, not talking to any new people during that period. But the blessing is because of what we had been able to build within EXP, we didn't have to worry about the financial component of our business. And that is the importance of having a business, right? Because you can step out of it and it still keep running without you. And so it wasn't about what I was doing or what he was doing at the day in, day out. I can't even tell you how many conversations he and I had over probably the next 6 months about how just really, truly how blessed we felt that, because that was a stressful time. That we were not having to worry about the financial component of our life because of really the model that EXP has allowed us to have.
So first things first, he's all better now?
Yeah, he is, thankfully, yes.
Good. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That I think you just touched on something that all of us in the industry have kind of maybe like a little weight on our shoulder, because we all know that life happens, and it could happen, 5 minutes from now.
Yeah.
We never know that life happens, something happens, and we have more important things to tend to than, our day-to-day real estate business. But how many of us can truly say that we have the freedom to be able to have that? The word luxury springs to mind, but it shouldn't be luxury. This should be done with intention, so that when stuff does happen, or we, get a wild hair and feel like going and hanging out in Greece for a month, that we have the ability to do that. So we're going to wrap this up here, but just I just want to know, how does it feel, Kathy? How does it feel to be at that position? Because you could choose to work with a client or choose not to. Weren't you saying that, your business is just made up of past clients who love you, trust you, and you go to lunch and then buy a house?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I still sell by choice. It's not because, I have to, but, I've been in a long time, and I have a lot of people who I love and who love me and who trust me, and past clients and what have you. So I'm very fortunate with that. But the freedom of not having to worry about, in typical real estate, for the real estate agents, our income's always up and down, up and down, up and down. I always joke, it's not really a joke, but HGTV, thanks to HGTV, like, everybody thinks realtors, they just, are multimillionaires. They, show 3 houses and drive these fancy cars, and that's all there is to our job, or our career, our business. And it's so much more than that. You and I know that, but the general public doesn't understand really what it is, and what we do as as realtors, and that we get no money if we have no closings, right? There's no salary that we get paid. There's no income coming in if we're not closing. And, interestingly enough, like I don't know if you saw this, but the National Association of Realtors just put out in 2022 that average realtor has only sold 4 houses. You can't survive on 4 houses, right? By the time everyone gets their share of the money, like you're homeless, really, if you're only selling 4 houses, even now, 9 months into the year. But the freedom that that we've been able to create for ourselves, really what it does for me, number one, it relieves just a lot of stress, right? And not worrying about the roller coaster ride. When's my next deal coming? Where's it coming from? When am I closing, the next deal or deals? And so I don't have to be concerned about that at all. And so it gives me such a peace and freedom. But what it also does is it has lit a fire under me that I want to really, want to inspire and help other agents to be able to get off the roller coaster ride and the hamster wheel. That we live on as realtors. And what I've learned over my 24 years in real estate is we do not teach agents how to create a true business, how to get themselves off the hamster wheel, if you will. And so it is a hamster wheel that most agents live on. And so I, at this stage, and just wanting to help as many realtors as I can to have that peace that I have, in the real estate space.
Well, Kathy, it's been so great getting to know you a little bit better. And I love that word, freedom. Yeah. I think that, as a whole, the personality type that gravitates toward the real estate industry, we are freedom seekers. Yeah. We think that we're going to have freedom with our time, only to find out that, I'm going to save all that for another day, and freedom with our money. And it's not the case. Right. And that to have found a company that offers us that ability to reach our freedom numbers so that we can choose or not choose has been, I hear it's been a blessing for you, and it's been a blessing for me as well.
Well, and one thing too that I'll share, even outside of building a business, because we're all agent owners with our stock options that we have, right? Just from doing what you and I do all the time, just selling houses, right? We can earn shares of stock multiple different ways. Again, at the end of 2022, my husband and I were looking sort of our stock portfolio, and we decided to sell a few shares that we had earned just by doing what we do, sell real estate, and we paid off one of our rental homes. So,
earned as in got for free.
What's that? Yeah, that I'd earned. Yeah, that we had earned just for doing what we do, sell houses, for free, like you said. That when we came on board 5 years ago was never even an thought that would evolve into that. But again, just another blessing and freedom that now we have this paid for rental house that we've owned for many years. And quite honestly, we could have sold some more shares and paid another rental house off. And so just the ability, which, our interest rate was so low, didn't make financial sense to do that. But just to have the ability to do that,
to have the choice,
and just gives a whole nother level of freedom.
That it's another point of choice for you.
That's right. 100%. Yeah.
Well, Kathy, thanks so much. Anybody who's interested in learning any more, please reach out to either one of us.
Yeah.
Happy to help you, and so glad that you could spend a little bit less than a half hour of your time, your precious time, with us, and give our best to your husband, of course.
Will do. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, let's do it again sometime.
For sure.
Okay. Thanks, Kathy. All right.